this meeting to order. And Matt, what's your first item on the agenda?
Okay, so I sent out an agenda earlier, but I received a, I received a message from John, and he had Brian Leone call in to discuss some issues with contact tracing on a new COVID-19 case that he wanted the board to be aware of. I want to just say as my general disclaimer at the beginning, of course, this is a public meeting. We need to be careful not to be disclosing any individually identifiable information about any particular case. But with that being said, John and Brian.
Brian, go ahead. I thought that this situation and some of the difficulties that Brian has experienced in while he's been tracing this warranted or such that the board might want to be aware of it. So I asked if he could come in and explain what's going on with this new case.
Certainly. Yes, thank you. So, John, are we specifically talking about the lodging facility?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So when we first learned about this case a couple of days ago, in addition to general family member contact tracing for the case, I went to the lodging facility to try to see and get an idea of the physical proximity to other rooms and just to kind of get an idea of what the exposure potential may have been. And the manager...
Sorry, Brian, can you back up? Is this someone who stayed in a local hotel?
The individual in question has been living at a hotel motel for approximately a little over a year on a long-term basis. And this facility has several long-term residents like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So the individual wanted me to disclose information that I couldn't, particularly in front of several other people. He refused to speak with me privately and also refused to divulge any information about who was staying there or potential contacts of the case. So I left at that point. Yesterday, my team went out there with a little bit more information and got a little bit more traction. They were able to interview a few people, like the individual that cleans the rooms, and was able to get some timelines as far as when was the last time this person had cleaned. But the owner of the facility at that point was contacted and seemed to be mostly concerned with what he legally had to provide us in terms of information. The facility technically doesn't have to provide us with contact information for people that are staying there, but I am not certain that he wasn't worried about what his liability would be if he were to divulge that information, which I couldn't really address. But it sounded more as if he was just like he didn't want to cooperate, and he was wondering if he could be forced to cooperate. And so at that point, we had discussed in the IMT meeting yesterday morning that the potential was there, and of course this is in any kind of outbreak investigation toolbox, is to say, if a facility manager or owner does not wish to cooperate with an investigation, we can simply just state publicly that we have a concern about an exposure at X facility, so that we can then try to garner contacts that way. Basically a public address announcement, basically saying if you've been at this facility since such and such date, we're asking you to contact us so that we can discuss the potential exposure. So we haven't gotten that far yet. However, what's happened yesterday since that completely unrelated to the lodging facility is that there's been a lot of doubt cast on the veracity of this case. Some clinicians involved have posited that maybe this was a false positive based on an additional follow-up test that was done. After speaking with some doctors and some folks up at OHA, the conclusion to that question is what I thought it would be, which is we're not going to downgrade a confirmed case just because there was another test that was done that became negative. The logic behind that is essentially that there are no significant reports of false positives for the test, but there certainly are there is plenty of documentation for false negatives. So it doesn't really make sense that a negative test would overrule a positive in that case. However, just because a lot of the clinicians involved and the healthcare workers involved are basically saying we think this is a false positive and we're treating it as such, it becomes a situation where I'm not 100% comfortable with using all the tools in my toolbox to put pressure on the facility. So at this stage, barring any additional input or any information, the decision has been made to this point not to push that avenue very hard unless new additional information shows and we think the risk is greater than it is currently thought to be at the motel. Does anybody have any questions about that or clarifying questions?
No, I just thought that the commissioner should be aware of that, Brian, and I thank you for taking time to call in and explain where you are on this.
Certainly. My pleasure.
Okay.
Questions from the other two commissioners?
No.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.
All right. Thanks for your time, commissioners. I'll go ahead and hang up then. Take care.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Bye.
All right, Megan. The first item, or sorry, I should say the second item here is with regard to the county's proposed CRF federal funding request. Counties that are being required to request this funding from the state have been granted a 1-week extension to May 29th, 2020. However, Megan has indicated that we've prepared the information that we need to prepare, so in order to submit that request, the board must authorize the chair to sign the Coos County federal funding certification, which states that we're going to follow the federal guidance, which we have endeavored to do. And there's also an attached request form with the figures we've come up with.
I move we authorize chair to sign.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Well, Megan, you really had to
That was easy.
really get into that one. And thank you so much.
Matt did it.
Ah! Don't shh, please be quiet. Please be quiet.
You misspelled my name.
No, I didn't. They're lying. They're lying?
There are not 2 L's.
Oh, whoops. Okay, well, that's not the
Put 2 L's in it?
Hey, hang on. At least it's not
You
the...
got the last name correct, but the first name.
I think if I got the last name correct, I'm doing pretty good. All right?
Second L was right on top of the first.
It was my hand. I have a tremor sometimes in my...
Palsy.
Yeah. It's actually, don't make fun of me, okay? All right, we'll correct that. Melissa, can we use your stamp?
If you spell my name correctly, you can. You should probably match.
Okay, I'm going to alter the stamp to match what we have on this document
One
here.
out of 2, not bad.
I think Bobby would tell you that the signature is fairly ambiguous, so it could be anything.
Well, thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate it. So,
I tried to blame it on Megan.
yeah, Megan wrote that. So the next item is John Sweet forwarded a plan that the state of Oregon has with their Parks Department for reopening, I think, 3 different state parks in Coos County, 2 camping, with not fully reopening. It was only certain portions of those parks. And I forwarded that on with the agenda that I sent out. So, John?
Yeah, I think perhaps we've already responded, I find out, but State Parks was asking if our opinion on their opening up some of their parks for day use. I'm comfortable with it, but I thought it might be something that we should act on as a board rather than individually. I don't know, we need a motion. If anyone's uncomfortable with it, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just call him and say it's fine, as far as we're concerned.
I responded to Larry, and I said it was fine with me to him.
Good.
I also responded and said it was fine with me. So there you go. So
You're
it's
the only
just you, John.
I did the same, but I told him I was only one of 3, and that to make it really appropriate, I should check. So I have done that, and I shall call him and tell him that we're all fine with it. I had one other thing I'd like to bring up about our county parks, if I may.
Yeah.
Okay. This weekend I don't have the latest booking information, but we were well on the way to being full at Riley in particular, Powers and Laverne as well, on the every other slot basis. I'm thinking about what the next step should be, and if this weekend goes well, or based on anticipations this weekend will go well, I'd like us to consider opening every slot up as the next step to the 5 or 6 counties that we have restricted bookings to. What are your thoughts on that? I'd like not to wait until next Wednesday to do this. If we choose to take that next step, the earlier we get the word out, the better. The last 2 times we decided on how many people we would have, or even opening our parks. We decided late in the week, and so the very first weekend, we didn't see any improvement. We had very, very, very few campers and very little revenue, therefore. So this is just a precaution that if you approve that concept, I could talk to parks on Tuesday and broaden the number of reservations we would take.
I'm good.
I'm fine.
You sure?
Yeah.
There's some other things we could do, or we can just leave it like it is.
I'm good, John.
Okay, fine. All right.
As long as Bob is happy.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
or one from my side.
I'll take this up with Parks on Tuesday then. I just wanted to get your input before we started down that road. So
I'm only
thanks so much.
500 behind, but what the heck?
That's all I have.
Okay. So that is dispenses with that item. So the only item left is our general. Are there any additional issues to address?
None?
I talked to, this is Bob, I talked to Arnie yesterday, and we still don't have any opening date for bowling alleys. Do we know any more since yesterday morning? Apparently
No,
not.
I don't.
No.
All I know, what I did hear yesterday, I sat in on a conversation with, I can't remember what they call it, but it was led by Alex Campbell. I had representatives from several counties, several communities on the phone, along with Arnie, and that question came up, and the response from Alex was, no action has been taken yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Arnie said.
So,
Yeah.
Well,
I followed up with the Association of Oregon Counties yesterday on that issue, as well as fraternal organizations that serve food, because they're specifically exempted right now and not able to open. And what I heard from Gina is that they're still working on that, but there's nothing concrete that's moving forward at this time.
I could report on the meeting that I sat in on with representatives from the governor's office, Senator Roblin, Representatives Caddy and David Brock-Smith, and then 2 people from Bandon Dunes and 2 people from the U.S. Golf Association were in on the meeting, and Bandon Dunes was explaining to all involved the precautions they plan to take for the upcoming August USGA amateur golf tournament at Bandon Dunes. And there seemed to be no great concern. There was none voiced by the state. I don't know if that means they would buy in or plan to buy in or not. Arnie and Caddy were both insistent that it was simply the county's decision to allow that or to not allow it. And the precautions they have taken are extraordinary. They're normally an event like this would be open to the public. On this particular one, they plan to allow only the 312 participating golfers, along with 2 people per golfer. One would be a parent or a guardian. The other would be a caddy. And so there being 3 times 312 or 936 participants and related parties there. It would take about another 200 people on site to oversee the event. At the end of each day's play, half of whoever is still in the tournament at that time would be done and would go home. And so there actually will generally be probably fewer more people, if even as many, as are normally on the golf course on a regular day. Participants are required to have a test, a COVID test prior to departing their home, have another test when they arrive. Each day their temperatures are taken. Social distancing will be strictly enforced at Bandon Dunes. There are provisions made to pick the people up at the airport, either here, I can't remember, or Eugene or Portland, I think Eugene, and with just the taxi driver and whoever, and the golfer and whoever comes with him, a parent or a caddy or both, and bring them to the resort. They have taken extraordinary precautions to protect their staff and to protect the participants. So that's where we are with that, and I think I've asked Don Crow if he would mind meeting with our public health people. I think that's important as they be in the loop, and so that's the next step. And in the meantime, they've announced that they're going to go ahead with it, but I think they've taken extraordinary precautions, and wanted to know if either of you had any concerns that I should know about or could address with Bandon Dunes.
I read the whole thing, and I don't have any concerns. I thought it was extraordinary.
Yeah.
So is the governor's office taking the position that this is our decision too?
Pardon me, would you restate the question?
I said, is the governor's office taking the position that this is a county decision?
I haven't heard that. No, to my knowledge.
Sorry, did you say Caddy and Artie took that position, or?
You know, I already took that position, and very, very strong in stating that. You know, when I talked to Don Crow, I had said to him, I think what you've done is over the top, but I would encourage you somehow to reach out to the state because they have a big stake in this. So I think he accepted what Arnie and Caddy said yesterday. Because I asked Caddy specifically. I said, Caddy, when do we expect to hear? When after the state people left, I said, when would you expect to hear back from them? And she said, you won't. This is the county's decision.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I would I thought the tone of the people on the phone was not critical. They had some questions to ask. They didn't say good, bad, or indifferent when they got the responses. The responses I thought were were adequate, very clearly thought out. So yeah, I just want to let you know that I'm not totally comfortable not having the state's blessing on this, but Bandon Dunes seem to be. So, and they've already announced in the paper that the show will go on. So I don't know what more we can do. With your blessing, Melissa and Bob, I'll ask Rick Hallmark if he would mind meeting with the Bandon News people so that they can explain to him what all is going on, and so there are no surprises to him or to them from something that he might like to see altered.
Yeah, I'm good.
Or added.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
And Dawn was very receptive to that. Okay, good. Now I think that's all I have.
All right. Okay, do we have anything else?
Nope.
If not, we will adjourn. Just a reminder that Monday is a holiday, so we will not be meeting on Monday. And we have a staff meeting Tuesday morning. So
All right.
talk to all of you soon.
Hey, have great weekends,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Yeah,
You too, John.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.